Okay, so in like 2015, I think I did the accent tag challenge that was going around YouTube. And I was just thinking for some reason today about how I feel like there's so many different euphemisms and like colloquialisms for more like taboo words, obviously, that wouldn't be on something like that, that I'm curious about what other people call these things. And I decided that I don't know if this is actually going to take off or not, but I would try to make my own like taboo accent tag. So, anyways, this is less about like the pronunciation and just like that section at the end of the original one where there's like, what would you call this thing? Okay, so here goes. Um, I'm just gonna say what I say and then like you'll probably understand most of them. So, undies. I say undies. I think underwear sounds like something an old person would say. Sounds like gross. But like we're talking about, this would mostly be girls' underwear, but like panties sounds gross. Like it sounds way too sexual. Like I just say undies, my undies, you know. Okay, so for someone's like chest, I say boobs. Even on men, I say boobs. I don't. Breast sounds really medical, and like tits sounds gross. I just say boobs. For like the downstairs area, I guess I would say something like that, like down there, or I just say vagina, honestly. Like pussy also sounds really gross. I don't like it. It took me a long time to even be able to tolerate other people saying it, and I still never say it in an unironic way. For men though, I wouldn't say penis. I don't think like ever. I mean, unless I was maybe talking to like someone about a medical like issue. I don't know, like penis insecurity maybe, but like I would say dick, like dick and nuts probably. I don't talk about it that often, but like if I did, that's what I would say. Okay, so if we're talking about like romantic prospects or like conquests or whatever, I'm a big fan of bitches and hoes. I listen to a lot of like I don't know, like Lil Wayne stuff, like Love Me. Anyways, so like I say all the time like doing it for the bitches or whatever. Anyways, um but on that note, I would never slut shame someone for like their actual body count and stuff. So I don't personally call someone like a hoe or like a whore or anything for their sex habits, but in an ironic way, like if I were to talk about like a slut or something in an ironic way, like myself, for example, like if I'm like roasting myself or whatever, in a reclaimed way, sort of, I guess, I would personally say harlot. Like, I love the word harlot. It's hilarious to me. Sometimes if I'm mocking like an old lady, I might say hussy because I've heard that a lot, but I personally don't really I go with harlot most of the time. Or if we're being like super like polite and affirming, in certain contexts I might say like retired sex worker or something. Anyways, okay, so this next one is kind of odd because I personally like if I have to pee or something, I would just say go to the bathroom. I'm pretty generic. I don't like to say go to the powder room or anything like that, powder my nose or whatever. I don't say that. That sounds like cocaine. Anyways, but I don't want to necessarily just straight up say I have to piss. Like maybe in a very comfortable context, but like most of the time I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go to the bathroom if I have to even say it at all. But on the other hand, I don't like the words pee and poop. Like, I'm sorry. I am a grown adult, I know, but like, I don't like the word pee and poop. So I say piss and shit. Like, if I'm talking about the substance for some reason, like, there's piss on the floor, I would say there's piss on the floor. I wouldn't say there's pee on the floor. But I wouldn't say that I'm gonna go piss. Like, I would say go to the bathroom. Um, I also am really weird about another word that I'm not even gonna say right now. I'm not gonna say it. I hate it so much, and it's stupid, but I don't care. I don't like this word, so I personally say toot. That's all we're gonna say. We're gonna move past that one. Toot is the way to go for me. Anyways, we're talking about like specifically weed. That's what I firstly. Okay, we'll start with that. I would say weed if we're talking about like I don't even want to say marijuana. That sounds dumb. But anyways, we're talking about that substance. I would personally say weed. I always wished that I liked the word pot, but like it just doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. I've personally never been able to like make it sound normal, so I just say weed. Anyway, with that substance, I would probably, if I'm describing someone who's obviously smoked weed, I would say they're stoned or baked, maybe depending. But usually I say something really goofy, like oh, this, like trying to describe something. I guess sometimes I would say hi, but like being in recovery, that has like a little bit of a different connotation to me. So I try to avoid saying hi unless I think they're on like hard drugs. But anyways, um, I would describe some weird thing like, oh, this person's like on Mars or something. Like I usually say some obscure thing. I usually don't like use any of these words, but if we're just like generally speaking, I would say stoned, I think. Or like toasted, because most people that have said baked before would know what I'm saying. But anyways, if we're talking about something else, I would probably say that they're like blasted or like they need to get to a meeting or something. Like I personally don't really have a reason to like talk about this in an unironic way a lot. Like if I knew that someone was on hard drugs, I would probably just be concerned a little bit. But um, if I was describing something like a funny way, like I would probably just. I mean, it's rare, like I said, but if I did, like it would probably be like blasted or like on another planet or like space cadet or something like that. Anyways, so for death, I personally, when someone's passed away or whatever, I know that I just said passed away, but that's usually not what I say. That's like just a polite way. When someone has died, I personally usually say they've perished. I know that that sounds like funny, but that's kind of, I guess, how I cope. Like, oh, my grandmother has perished. Like, that's personally what I would say. I feel like maybe it's making light of it to, like coping way, but also I genuinely love the word perished. Um, but if I'm talking to like someone to comfort them who had someone who just passed away, I would probably go for either like if they're religious, I'd say like, oh, but they're with Jesus. If they're not religious, then I'll just say like they're at peace or whatever. But if we're talking about someone who like if we're talking about like murder specifically, like ending someone's life, like say I'm angry at someone and I'm like not necessarily actually threatening to kill them because this is not an admission of guilt, but like if I'm arguing with someone and instead of being like I could kill you, I would say I could end you right now, or like how's your last day alive been so far. But if I'm talking about it in like a narrative, like talking about someone who was killed, I would say wasted. I learned that when I watched Full Metal Jacket as a kid, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. I love, or like murked, but like I love the word wasted when we're not talking about substances. Like they absolutely wasted that random guy in the narrative. Like I don't know. That's what I say usually. So okay, this is where it gets interesting. If it hasn't already been. Okay, so like I'm weird about this one too. If I'm just talking in like a generic way, like you know, about a celebrity who's hot or something, I would usually probably say that I would smash. You know what I mean? Anyways, but if we're talking about like me personally in an actual situation, like talking about something that actually happened with someone, I don't really like, I'm weird about this. Like, I don't like saying fucked or making love. I think that those are all, like, it depends, but like, those are all like so either aggressive or like unnecessarily like sugar coated. I personally would just say like this sounds awful, but like I genuinely have tried to like proposition someone for sex and said like, "Would you like to touch me inappropriately?" Like I literally say some goofy stuff like that to avoid actually saying it in any of those ways because none of those ways sound appealing to me and sex just sounds really medical. But anyway, um but if I'm talking about it like a funny way, I would probably say like getting railed or like sometimes I say making sweet love as like a joke. Um Okay, so this one's kind of controversial, but I'm on the team of saying some things some things I feel like need to be said, just to destigmatize certain things instead of sugarcoating it, which I think can sometimes be counterintuitive to like actually addressing certain things. So, for example, here's two different things that fit into this: homeless people. I have known and been close to a lot of people who have been homeless. I personally don't, and also have heard from a lot of people who were homeless, don't like the term like unhoused and stuff like that. It just sounds kind of like disregarding like the actual they're without a home, they're homeless. You don't need to like I don't know. It just sounds very systematic to like use fluff like that. So I personally say homeless person. It's not diminutive, but it's also not like normalizing it because it's not like a good normal thing. I'm not saying that I'm judging anyone who's homeless, but I'm saying like making it sound normalized with like weird flow. Like kind of when people talk about suicide and they say unalived and stuff like that, it can sometimes make people take it less seriously, and then that isn't helpful. And then so in that same vein, I personally just like talking about addicts and stuff. I personally just say addict, which applies to me also. I don't like I'm not judging anyone else for how they identify personally, but I don't like saying like instead of talking about being an addict saying like that I'm in recovery or something. I am in recovery and I do talk about being in recovery, but I don't personally say like at a meeting instead of addict or alcoholic, don't say like I'm in long-term recovery. Like I just feel like you shouldn't be afraid of the truth or, like that's pretty much it. Okay, so moving along. Personally, when we're talking about like self-pleasurable activities, even though I'm a female, a lot of people have gotten mad at me about this for some reason. Not necessarily mad, but like they've argued with me about my use of this term, but I just say jerk off. Jerking off sounds so chill and normal. There's nothing weird about it, like someone is jerking off, okay? That sounds normal. Saying like, oh, I'm not even gonna quote them. There's so many different weird euphemisms for that activity. I don't like any of them. And like masturbating also sounds so medical. Like, no, no thanks. That sounds gross. I just say jerking off. And a lot of people are like, you can't jerk off, you don't have a dick. I don't care. I can do what I want. And I don't care. That's what I'm gonna say. Okay, and then we're talking about like oral activities. I personally just say giving head. I don't like all the other weird stuff. Sometimes as a joke, I could say like top or something, but like or like sloppy toppy, but like that's not how I would actually say it in like an actual unironic way. Um okay, and then for some reason, I'm like on team completely destigmatized to the maximum extent with graphic depictions of menstruation. Like I am not one to be like, oh, on the rag or like Aunt flows with it. No, I say like when I'm on my period or whatever, which I don't really like the term period either. It also sounds really medical. But like in a casual conversation, if someone asks like, "How are you doing?" and I'm not doing good because I'm on my period or whatever, related issues come with that. I personally just say like, I am bleeding profusely out of my uterus right now, and it sucks. And like most people just get it. Like most people don't have a problem with saying it like that. And if they do, they're weird and fuck them. So. If we're talking about like someone who's an idiot, I might say idiot, but like dumbass comes more naturally to me, but also that's obviously really aggressive. So if I'm trying to be like polite in most conversations, I would probably say like not the brightest crayon in the box or this person ate too many crayons or whatever. I know that that's like also still really aggressive, but I honestly try not to judge people's intelligence a whole lot. Most of the time, it's only if someone had done something wrong. And, like, okay, there's nothing wrong with being dumb. There's something wrong with being dumb and being proud of it and, like, defending something that has been proven to be wrong and, like, you're harming other people because of it. Then I might say that they're a dumbass or something. Okay, so if I'm talking about, like, being unwell in like a mental health way, that's what I would say. I would say unwell. Like if I'm having a mental health crisis. I don't know why I like sugarcoat this in particular, but I do usually just say unwell. Like I was extremely unwell or something when I'm talking about like a manic episode I had. But then if I'm like sick in a physical sense, I would say violently ill. Like I do like the word ill. I wish that I could use it to mean cool, but it also just doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. So, anyways, if we're talking about someone who's a liar, I usually would go straight for the throat. Like I say, lying rat bastard a lot. I feel like, but most of the time, in a quick like summary, I would just say they're delusional. Or like in a Facebook argument, I've really taken a liking to when someone's like making something up out of nowhere, like this is about the Democrats or whatever, and then someone's like, "Are the Democrats in the room with us?" Like, who mentioned Democrats? Anyways, my cat is. Okay, so moving on. Gay people are gay. This is not coming from a hater, obviously, okay, so keep that in mind. I just am not a big fan of some of the euphemisms related to this, both in an SJW kind of way. Sometimes I think things are too much, and also on the offensive side, sometimes I think that obviously we're using some things that we shouldn't be using, probably. I personally reclaim the F slur sometimes against myself because other people have used it against me, and I feel like I have a right to, but I also don't use it against anybody else, and I would never use it in a negative way to put someone down, especially because they're gay. Like, I just say gay. That's it. Similarly, I'm not a big fan of the word neurospicy. I think it sounds very juvenile. As someone who's diagnosed autistic, I personally just do not like that whole culture around, like, it's not necessarily fetishization, but it's like there's a weird, like, oh, infantilization, that's the word. There's a weird infantilization with autism sometimes that not necessarily is inaccurate for some people who need more assistance and stuff like that, that I know sometimes are more youthfully spirited than others. But for me personally, I feel like to make the blanket term like neurospicy and stuff like that, it just feels really infantilizing, and I personally am super uncomfortable with that. So I just say I'm autistic. I don't have any preference for like autistic person or like person with autism. I don't care. I just say autistic. Also, if for someone who might not be diagnosed and might not be comfortable using the label of autism, that's fine for that situation, but they still want to be included. Not in an, I'm not judging them, but I'm saying like for this situation where someone like might feel the need to be included in this rightfully, I would just say somewhere on the spectrum or like something like that. Like someone who they're not sure or we're not sure or whatever, the people talking about this that they're not sure, they don't want to say autistic. I just say somewhere on the spectrum that works most of the. All right, if we're talking about someone who sucks, okay. So there's a lot of things you could say here obviously. Most of the time I try to be more creative than just using blatant like obscenities, but if I feel the need to, my concrete go to most of the time is maggot or scum of the earth. If I'm really mad at someone, I love, like, it's cathartic in my journal, like being super mad at someone or like in a poem and like describing them as maggots. That's very satisfying. I personally think it's much more flavorful than like asshole or bitch or whatever. But if I do, like in an argument, heat of the moment, end up cursing at someone, most of the time I would either just call them like a bastard or like a motherfucker, but also I feel like most of the time I'm still more creative than that. I would probably say like motherfucking something, whatever I'm mad about, like, someone hit my car or something, in my car and sitting there with road rage or whatever. I might say like motherfucking student driver or some shit. Like, I don't know. I usually describe whatever I'm upset about rather than just call them something outright, but motherfucker is an excellent term, and also I do like the term bastard, but usually I put bastard at the end of something, like I would say like creepy bastard or like whatever, to actually describe the situation. Okay, so this is the last bit. If we're talking about someone who might be like creepy or, something like that, I personally am with the I hate to say it, with the Gen Alphas on this one. I like the word sus. I guess Gen Z, that's my generation, obviously. I feel like obviously we're a part of that too a little bit, but I know that's a little bit into the like new wave category of language. I'm, mostly like you heard I say shit like perished and wasted, so I'm a little bit old fashioned with some of my language, but I do like the word sus. I feel like it's very flexible. Like it could be not, necessarily a big deal. Like someone's like, it's a little bit sus, like in a joking way, but it could also be like that person's extremely sus. Like it's just very flexible, kind of like fuck. Like it works in so many ways that I appreciate. So I like that word. Obviously I know it means suspicious, but I'm just saying like I like saying sus. Um, and the other thing I was gonna say is for someone who's like attractive, I don't really like saying that people are like hot or I would probably like I don't really have a word for that. Honestly, like if I'm talking about someone who's very beautiful or whatever, appealing to the eye that I don't know very well, like most of the time I go for comments based on like things that we have in common, like their personality. But if I just want to describe someone's appearance like outright, like looking at a picture my friend showed me of someone they're talking to and I want to give them a compliment, I would probably say like something really obscure, like I'd handstand twerk off a wall for the chance to take them on a date, or something weird like that. Or like I would sell my soul to Davy Jones for 2 cents or something for a chance to get their Snapchat or something like that. All right, that's all I've got. Let me know if you have more ideas or, you know, do your own with this. Thanks.